Sorry, it was on some sort of a delay. Now that we have everyone's attention, good evening. It is just a bit after 6:30, and I know there's still some folks trickling in, but I want to be sure to honor your time so that we can maximize this evening, and we're going to go ahead and get started right now. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Amy Cashwell, Superintendent with Henrico Schools, and on behalf of the entire school division, we're so pleased that you took time out of your valuable schedules to be with us tonight, and I do want to acknowledge that I'm joined by two board members this evening. We have Christy Kinsella from the Brooklyn District, as well as Marcy Shea from the Tuckahoe District with us this evening. And so, on behalf of the school board members who are here, those who aren't here with us, and of course, all of the staff in the school division, we want to say thank you again for dedicating your time to be part of this piece of the process. So, as you know, we are entering the home stretch. And the committee, which is made up of volunteer citizens and teachers and folks just like you, they've been working many nights, very long nights since September, analyzing data and studying the community comments. So tonight will not be the last chance for public input. We're still hearing from you at our public school board monthly meetings, plus we have at least 2 public hearings dedicated to this process in May. So I will encourage you to be a part of those opportunities as well. This redistricting process is purposefully long and very open in order for our community to put us beneath a microscope and scrutinize the details. So ultimately, it involves difficult choices in order to meet the school division's goals for today, for tomorrow, and for the foreseeable future. And no matter what the outcome, what's been made clear through the past few months is the passion that our community has for public education. And that is why we appreciate that so many of you are here this evening. So in closing, I want to share my gratitude with the Redistricting Committee and to you as well for coming out tonight. Thank you for being engaged, for being informed. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matthew Cropper of Cropper GIS, who's going to walk us through this evening's details. Mr. Cropper?
Thank you, Dr. Cashwell, and thank you all for coming tonight. I want to reiterate what Dr. Cashwell was saying about the importance of the process and having community engagement and community involvement, and having an open and transparent process like this sometimes seems messy, but you're seeing things at their early stages from the start to the finish. And so we really appreciate all of your input, and as you guys have followed the process, we are here tonight to just give you an overview of the 2 options that the committee's been looking at. But before we get to that, talk about tonight's purpose. So we want you to learn how the school redistricting process has been working. So we're going to give you an overview of the work that's been done and talk a little bit about the timeline and things like that. The committee has 2 options right now, option D4 and E4, that they have been working on over the past 6 months, an evolution of maps that they've been working through the past 6 months to create the maps that you're going to be seeing tonight. So a lot of hard work and countless hours have been gone into this, and tears and sweat and things like that, and a lot of work, and I really applaud the committee and the hard work that they've been doing. It's not an easy job for them, especially with the pressure that they get from the members of the public who may not be happy, but really want to thank the committee. But we are here to get some input from you on these 2 options. Most importantly, we want you to complete an online questionnaire. We have a survey that's out, and it's live right now. It's on the Henrico School Redistricting page, and that survey is something that we're really looking for you to put your input on in that format, so that we can all collect the information, and every committee member and all the members of the public and also staff and school board can benefit from your input. So a little bit about who we are. We're at Cropper GIS Consulting. We're based out of Ohio, but we do this kind of work with school districts and divisions all over the country. Our specialty is school redistricting. We do a lot of school redistricting processes with committees and school districts, and we also do demographic study work and facility planning, but we're here and honored to be working with the division on this redistricting study. Like I said, we work with divisions all over, so we bring to the table experience on what other communities and committees have gone through as they work through the tough job of redistricting. And we also bring the technology to the table. So GIS stands for Geographic Information Systems. It lets us collect data from the county, from all different state departments, and from the school division. We put it all into a mapping system so that we can make accurate and informed decisions and know how many students are living in different areas and what the impact is of moving an area one way or the other. I'm Matthew Cropper. I've been facilitating this process with this committee. I also have some experience working in Henrico. I've been working with the division on different things for the past 10 or 15 years. And I was part of the process that occurred over 10 years ago as well, very similar to this. So honored to be working with you as the public and also members of the committee on this process. So what are our objectives? Why is there a need to redistrict? We are tasked to efficiently use all available space and plan for future growth. So some schools have some available capacity, other schools are at or over capacity. So we're looking at trying to make sure that we maximize the use of space and make sure that the use of space in different buildings across the district is equitable. Some of the key things that sort of fired off this process and kicked off this process is Holiday Elementary is expanding. It's doubling in size. And Holiday is not too far from here, and that school is significantly overcrowded right now. That added capacity is really helping to fill that void and what they need is space within the current zone that sits there. But there's also some extra space available. They designed that intentionally to be able to help provide some relief to overcrowding to schools adjacent to Holiday. And you'll see that how Holiday's map does extend out beyond the current boundaries to help provide some capacity relief to as many other schools as possible. So in addition to the elementary level, there are 2 new high schools being constructed, and that's Highland Springs and J.R. Tupper. They're both being built with a slightly larger capacity, and so that's something that we are accounting for. And all of these buildings, the 2 high schools and the elementary school, are being planned for the fall of 2021. Another task that we were given at the board level is to look at reducing concentrations of poverty by balancing the neighborhood or school community concept. So the committee's been looking at data on the numbers of economically disadvantaged students and the percentages of economically disadvantaged students that live inside each zone so that we can see what is it currently and what would the impact be if the zone moves one way or the other. And you'll see some statistics out there that show economic disadvantage percentages and things like that so that we can help understand and see what the impacts on redistricting are as it relates to the concentrations of poverty and the income component of schools and communities. An additional thing that the committee is tasked to work on, which is something that was given to them a little bit further into the process, is there's another elementary school being planned, and that school is being planned to open fall 2022. This elementary school is located in the northern part of the district, up in the, it's only expected to impact the Greenwood and the Longdale areas. So it's up in that area, and a lot of it is really being planned to help account for a lot of future growth in that region that certainly is coming and planned and approved. And so, so that new elementary school, you'll see there's a zone for that on the option maps, and so that has been accounted for by the committee as they continue their work. That's expected to open fall 2022. One other component that we're looking at is expansion at Hungry Creek Middle School. So Hungry Creek Middle School is expanding. We're going to gain about 164 seats with an expansion, and that also is anticipated to be in fall 2022. And that the capacity, that added capacity at Hungry Creek is accounted for in our statistics and our data as the committee continues their work. So we have a set of rules to follow. The committee, as every meeting, they're oriented on these guidelines and the criteria. And these basically are the rules to follow as you look at one option versus another, or if you determine if you need to make a zone change, move a line one way or the other. The question that the committees always ask themselves is it bringing us closer to adhering to these criteria as a whole? I think it's important to note that these criteria are not in any priority order, and that the best plan will be one that focuses and touches on these criteria as best as possible. If you focus only on one element in these criteria, you start to deviate further from the other elements of the criteria. So it's really important to know that no plan is going to be perfect. There's things that this group, that this committee and the division can't control, such as the number of students and people that live in different subdivisions and the number of seats at the schools and where the schools are located. There's some things that are set in stone that we have to work with. And so no plan is going to be perfect when you look at it. The best plan and the best recommendation will be one that adheres to these criteria as best as possible. So what we try to do is we try to improve from the current zones and make improvements where improvements need to be made, and try not to make anything worse. And that's really the sort of the mantra that we follow following these criteria. So these criteria are to use major roads and natural boundaries whenever feasible to define attendance zones. All reasonable efforts should be made to ensure contiguous geographic zones, which minimize division of clearly identifiable community components. So that's, try not to, don't create a satellite zone, and don't go into in the middle of a zone and draw an area around a subdivision or an apartment complex or whatever it may be and zone it to a school outside, where you have one big zone for the school and then a little small area that's outside that's not separate from the main zone. That's what we mean by contiguous, also referred to as satellite zones. And the second component of that is to minimize division of identifiable community components. So that's looking at where subdivisions are and try not to draw the line down residential streets if at all possible. If the line needs to move, try to move it along more major roads if at all possible, and to avoid splitting up neighborhoods and subdivisions or apartments and things like that. All legal and judicial guidelines for the maintenance of the unitary school system adhered to, so we are certainly following the rules of the law in doing this and, as we continue our work. Efforts were made to ensure an efficient system of school bus transportation, so we've been looking at distance data, average distance to school currently for students that live inside the zones and go to their zone schools, and then also for the options. So you'll see there's statistics out there that shows you the average distance of students as a whole, current and then for the options. And we also have transportation working with us and at all the committee meetings to give input to the committees whenever needed about safety and where are the bus stops and where is it viable to send students to this school versus that school based from a transportation perspective and things like that. And so that's something that the transportation office has helped us to address this element of the criteria. And efforts will be made to establish walking schools and reasonable walking zones where feasible, so trying to make sure if a student can walk to school to maintain that opportunity. The division has a set of walk zones established around each zone, and if you look at our interactive map, you can turn on those non-transport zones and shows a little yellow outline around each school. And those are the areas where the division does not offer transportation to the students. The students are close enough and safe enough to walk, where they're expected to either have their own transportation provided or walk to school. There are none of the options right now encroach into those walk zones that the school division has established. That's not to say that you, as parents and community members, may allow your students to walk to school if they're a little bit outside of that zone. There could certainly be situations where people can walk to school, or their parents, you feel it's comfortable enough for your child to walk to school, then they may be outside of that quote-unquote walk zone. But we're focused on making sure that we follow the division's definition of walk zones and make sure that if students are expected to walk to school, that we don't take that opportunity away from them. But we are certainly trying to keep students as close to schools as possible as we continue our work while adhering to the other criteria. Another element of the criteria is provision should be made to ensure the continuity of the child's K-12 progress. And so this is really, another term for this is referred to as grandfathering. And most districts do some level of grandfathering, and that's basically allowing students, you see the underlying section here, when the new boundaries take effect, the ACPS will allow grades 5th, 8th, and 11th to 12th the opportunity to continue to their existing school, but transportation will not be provided. So when that school, when the year that the boundaries are implemented, if a student is in 5th grade, 8th grade, or in 11th or 12th grade, they have the option to stay at their existing school. They just have to provide their own transportation somehow. Either a parent or they're high school, they can drive themselves, or however you choose to get to school. But that's a good measure that this division is offering to the public to further reduce the impact on students who may be finishing out their final year at a level and just letting them finish out that final year without having to move at the one last year or the last two as it relates to high school. So it's a generous measure from the division, something that we do see a lot, but just to help further reduce the impact on families and communities. The next criteria is implementation of a rezoning plan over the span of several years is preferable if it has the effect of minimizing the need for additional line changes. So when you read this element of the criteria, this is kind of rationale for adding the new elementary school and the expanded middle school into the mix once the committee started their work. They were aware that they needed to bring this school online. They were doing it in fall of 2022, and they wanted to just make sure that the committee was aware of it, bring it into the picture so that the committee can focus on that, bring that into part of their consideration to try to minimize the need to make another line change after all this process is over. So here's our timeline. As Dr. Cashwell said, we are coming to nearing the finish line. We are really made a lot of progress. We started our work here in April of last year in preparation for this process. September is when we first started engaging the public, and we had the public come out to information sessions and started our committee work in September. So we've been working through the committee and with you as public since then. And we've come a long way. So a lot of maps, a lot of things have been considered, discussed, a lot of conversations. But we're at the point here, you'll see the green section right here where we're at the public info session. And this is where we're sharing the maps with you as they sit these two maps. We don't expect there to be drastic changes to the maps moving ahead from now, and because this is the last time we're engaging the public from the committee-based process. So I wouldn't anticipate you seeing brand new concepts, things that have not been discussed or considered yet. Not to say the committee has the prior maps in their packets, and certain concepts and things like that they could consider. But I think that from this point, the committee's looking at finalizing recommendations, making adjustments, final adjustments to the map before they finalize a recommendation. The committee's meeting 3 more times, so we're regrouping on March 18th, and then we've got 2 meetings in April, and then the school board presentation is in the latter part of April. And then the board is expected to vote in May. And so we have about a little more than a month before the process is out of the committee's hands and getting into the hands of the school board. And at that point, the school board has the ability to do what they like with the recommendation. And so they have the ability to make changes to the maps if they feel it's important, or to better adhere to the criteria and guidelines. And I will continue to talk to the board after the committee's process is over and encourage you to follow the same focus that the committee did in looking at developing a plan, improving a plan that best adheres to the guidelines and the criteria that the committee was focused on. Talk a little bit about the committee. So we have a committee that's actually 2 committees, and then they meet jointly as well. There's an elementary group that's made up of about 46 members, and then there's a secondary group that's made up of 21 members. The elementary focuses on elementary maps, and the secondary focuses on the middle and high school maps, and they have been through the process. The charge to create a grassroots redistricting committee was established by the school board, and we as consultants formulated the group. So we put, there was applications, we asked for applications to serve on the committee. We had hundreds of applications come in, and we, the consultant, identified and selected committee members based off of where they live to make sure that there's a good distribution of committee members all across the county. It's important to note that these committee members aren't there to represent a school per se, although they live in different school zones. They're there more to give us input about what traffic is like in their neighborhood, where they see students walking, and those types of elements, the local dynamics that they know about since they work where they work and shop and live. Committee members have been asked to focus on holistically the county as a whole, and not focus only on their area, but focus on developing a recommendation that's best for all children in this district, regardless of where you live. And so people from the East End are giving input on the West End schools and West End to the East End. They're looking holistically, trying to think objectively, and focus on developing a plan that's best for all children in this county, even if it may impact committee members. I know that there are committee members, I'm sure there are committee members that are impacted as a result of this, and I applaud them for maintaining a level head and staying the course on this. But the volunteer members are parents, staff members, people from all walks of life and all professions sit on these different committees and working with us. But the committee is one method to engage the public. We have the committee meetings, and then the public is also welcome to come observe the meetings We've had public come to all the meetings and sitting in the back and watching the committee's progress, as well as inviting you guys to some of these public info sessions to really give you an opportunity to stand around maps and talk with members of the committee and consultants and staff. The committee's work is also almost complete, like I said. They've met 8 times in September and have spent many hours working through this process. They have reviewed 18 variations of maps options as of now, and so they've looked at a lot of different variations. You see the picture on the right shows a sketch map. We gave the committee blank sheets of paper. We said, sketch out options that you think are viable. And committee members brought back colored maps that we took back and put into our mapping system and brought back as options for them. So I've given them all opportunities to look and explore maps, as well as developing and modifying the maps as the process matures. They have looked at a whole slew of data and information. The data and information has increased, and we started with the packet of information, and the committee members and also members of the public said, I think you should look at this. This helps with the criteria. And so we've added other elements of data to the packet of information. And you'll see when you go out after this presentation, we let you out to the foyer area, you'll see there's maps posted on the walls, on the boards, and there's also statistics and tables so that committee members and myself, we can talk with you about the maps, but also look at the data and see how the statistics balance and the impact on some of the data that the committee is focusing on. It's important to note that these maps are draft. They're always draft all the way through this process. Even when the committee finishes finalizing the recommendation, the maps are considered draft. Nothing is final until the board approves the plan. And so we don't anticipate brand new maps coming out from here to the finish, but we do expect there to be some modifications to the maps and refinements to the maps. The public has been very helpful, and we really thank you for all of the time and efforts you guys have put in to giving us feedback in this process. We say thousands of comments have been received. I think it's definitely more than tens of thousands of comments have been received. And we have a general feedback form where members of the public can provide input at any time, and that's very frequently shared with the committee, and also we post that information online so members of the public can see what's being shared. And so we have certainly been tracking your input, and the committee's reading it and us to see make sure that no stone is left unturned, and that even if you don't see a map that satisfies your expectations, just making sure that we are hearing you and that we understand what your concerns are, and that to make sure that we're addressing and hearing out what's being said by the public, what some of their thoughts are. All the materials that are shared with the committee are shared online, so there's a redistricting page designed for this process. And if you go there, you go to the documents link on the side, and you can get access to any material that the committee has been looking at from the beginning up till now. There's an interactive map as well, an online map that you can pull up on your phone or any device, and that helps you to see the map, see the options, and you can look, and even if you type in your address, it'll tell you if you're impacted or not, and per option. So it further helps to inform you as members of the public on what the maps look like and how you may be impacted. At the February meetings, both committees narrowed down 2 options to present at the March public info session, where we are now. These 2 options were what the committee felt best adhered to the overall project objectives and criteria. Like I said, the maps have evolved. They've been looking at maps and developing evolutions and modifications of the maps that bring you to the maps that you see that we're sharing with you tonight. Like I said, although modifications are likely, it's not expected that brand new concepts or maps will be developed before the final recommendations are made. They could look at prior concepts. And at the committee's, one thing that we wanted to know, at the committee's last meeting, they reviewed 14 specific area issues. So, and they had a pretty in-depth discussion at that committee meeting. It was a joint committee meeting. Those 14 issues that were brought to the table at the committee meeting were things that committee members gave us that they wanted to discuss, and we also included some comments and topics that the board had discussed the prior week. As you know, we have some new board members that came online sort of halfway through this process. And so as they're getting oriented, they wanted to make sure that they share what they're seeing, what they're hearing from the constituents, and that was discussed. So these 14 issues that are based on the school board public feedback were discussed, but no map changes were made at that last meeting. We do anticipate at the upcoming meeting in March that the committee will address some of these issues and either decide whether to make adjustments to the maps, or if they come to the resolution that no map adjustment can be made to adhere to whatever concern is being discussed. So members of the public, like I said, I think I covered this pretty well. HenricoSchools.us/redistricting is the page to go to see all the committee materials and all the stuff that we share with you guys. There's also a feedback form on there that's separate from the survey. We have a survey designed for tonight that's specific to the two maps and asking some questions of you. And that's really what we're asking you to fill out. And if you go to the redistricting page, you'll be able to find that survey link pretty quickly. That survey is live now, and it's going to go all the way till March 15th is the deadline for that survey. But tonight is a gallery walk. It's not a type of meeting where we have an open mic where people come up and speak and ask questions at the mic. We find it to be more productive for you to have conversations with members of the committee and staff around maps, and then to certainly share your input in the survey so that everybody can benefit from the thoughts that you have and the things that you want to share with the committee. It's really the most important thing is to get your input so that everybody can benefit from your comments. You'll notice that the committee members out in the foyer will be wearing lanyards. You'll see yellow lanyards, and those are the elementary committee members, and then the orange lanyards are secondary group members. And although there's elementary and secondary, this committee, they're starting to look holistically at the maps as a whole. So elementary has certainly had input on the middle and high schools, and vice versa. So any committee member can probably give you some insight on the maps and help orient you on the maps and listen to what you have to say. And although they're very, the discussions are important, we are asking you to submit your feedback on the survey to benefit from that. When you look at the maps, the background colors represent the options, and you'll see also on those option maps, there's a bold black outline on the map that represents the current boundary for the school. So if you see, you can look and see how the background color deviates from the outline, shows you areas that are anticipated could be potentially moved in that draft map. There's also smaller little outlines on the map that have labels on them. And those labels show you how many students live in each of those little small areas that go to their zone school. And so that can help you understand the impact, if an area were to move one way or the other, how many students would be impacted. And the committee's been working with that as well as members of the public as they continue to explore the maps. Online map is croppermap.com/Henrico, and that has the options on there. You can use it on any phone or device, and we have certainly found it to be useful, and it's been used heavily in this process. The statistics are out there. Like I said, you see a couple of large boards with the stats that the committee's been looking at, and we're sharing all the information that the committee has been looking at to evaluate the options. The survey expires on March 15th, so that's a Sunday. So on Monday morning, we're going to close the survey, download all the information, put a summary report together, and study that, share it with the committee, and also with you guys. And so 15th is the deadline. One of the things to note about the survey is that although it's interesting to see how many people prefer one map or another, and where they're coming from, and which areas like this map versus that map, know that this is not a popular vote type of survey. We're not looking for, the most people voted prefer this map, so this is the map that we're going to move ahead with. Really, what we're looking for is to see if there are any stones left unturned, that we have not discovered, any input that has not been gathered that brings us to better adhering to the objectives and guidelines, guiding principles. So we're looking for constructive comments as you fill out the survey, and let us know what you think about the option as it relates to the guidelines and those criteria, because that's what the committee is focused on doing as well. Next steps, the committee is going to review the additional feedback from you and online surveys and emails, and adjustments could be made to these draft maps if it helps bring us closer adherence to the objectives and the criteria. 3 more meetings for the committee, March 18th, April 1st, and April 15th, and those meetings are posted online. You can see the times and dates of those and locations. And the school board presentation is on April 23rd, and the final vote is on May 28th. And there's also a series of hearings, school board hearings as well, where they're going to invite the public to come listen. And if you look at the schedule, you'll be able to see those scheduled hearing dates where you can come and actually share your thoughts directly with the school board. Any other questions you have about that we can't answer, or there's things that you forgot that you want to discuss that may be beyond what you fill out the survey, you can always go to the redistricting page and participate on the general feedback form and give us input. So we're still tracking that, but tonight we're really hoping that you focus on the survey and give us your input via that survey. So that's all we have for the presentation. At this point, we're going to invite you to the foyer area right out here, and the maps will be around there. Committee members and staff will be there, and I myself. Thank you guys so much for coming. We look forward to talking to you around the maps.